Leadership, 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 a great passion of mine, and you can really see it. Kingdom leadership, not just leadership. So stick around in this particular episode as I'm going to primarily focus on what it means to have a heart of servanthood. You know, when it comes to servanthood, we can talk about many different things as we serve other individuals. But in this particular episode, I wanted to focus primarily on the heart of servanthood as we're able to analyze ourselves. Do I truly have that heart of a servant? Because leaders are servants. I know the secular world, the business world, they have their own interpretations and meanings of what it means to be a leader by influencing others. But today I wanted to primarily focus on the heart of servanthood. So let me start off by reading this passage that many of us are familiar with, and it's in Proverbs 4:23, New King James Version. Keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it spring forth issues of life. So here, the author of Proverbs, the wise Solomon, is challenging us, hey, look, keep your heart with all diligence in the rightful place, because out of it flows everything. So whatever is in our heart, as the saying goes, you are what you eat. And if you feel that you're overweight, unhealthy, well, maybe you should go back and see at the food that you're eating. So if you notice that your heart is not in the rightful place, the things you talk about, how you influence people, how people feel around you, then it's something for you and I to fully analyze. So for us as God's children, as kingdom leaders, as ministers, as men and women of God, as people in the marketplace, in the business world, we need to understand that one of our primary focuses is to be servant leaders. And that has a lot to do with our heart. So let me just share with you some principles about, excuse me, what it means to be to have a heart of servanthood. Just as the heart is the most important member in our physical body, so it is the same towards leadership. So if our heart starts beating, I don't think I need to explain to you what would happen. The physical body, you would die. So just as much as that the heart is a vital member in our physical body, so is our inner heart, which is our character of who we are, our essence. It also needs to be very healthy and in the rightful place. Another thought about our heart is this: the heart of every leader contains who they are, their character, their passion, their attitude, their motives, and their nature. Very interesting. Your motives, your nature, your heart, your thinking, your attitude, all of that is actually part of the essence of your heart. And if you believe that your attitude is wrong, that your character is wrong, that you are lacking passion, you're a very passive person, then you and I need to once again go back and reevaluate our heart. Okay, what is happening there? Why am I becoming very impassionate? Why do I have stinking thinking? You know what I mean? Why do people not want to be around me? Just as soon as I enter into a circle, people are like, okay, we got to break up this conversation and go elsewhere, because every time you enter into a sphere or a group of people, it's like a skunk walking in the middle of the room. People are like, oh, we got to get out of here. Why? Because you bring in that skunk type of an attitude. So that's a challenge for all of us as God's children or as kingdom leaders, to analyze our heart. What is in our heart? Another concept is this, that an individual's heart is frequently visible in their actions and in their words. So whatever, as the Bible says, from the abundance of the heart, the mouth shall speak. So whatever is happening in your heart inwardly that others may not see, it is going to eventually become visible in your actions and in your words. So if your actions are wrong, if your actions are harmful, or if you're lacking discipline, if you're passive, people are going to see that. Or even your words, you've been always negative. Hey guys, as a group or as a church, we want to achieve this. I don't think, Pastor, that's going to happen. We don't have to find it. And you're always just being that negative sour lemon in that room or at those meetings. So this has a lot to do with our heart, and God gives us continual opportunities to analyze our heart and look into our heart. And as a matter of fact, in the Bible, there are more than 500 verses that are talking and addressing our heart. 500 verses as a combination between the Old and the New Testament. And I'll give you that opportunity to study the Bible for yourself. But I do want to read a couple of Bible passages. And I'm going to read one passage from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 6:21. And I'm going to read you two different translations. The first translation is the New King James translation. And it says this: "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Now I want to read to you the New Living Translation, and it goes like this: "Where your treasure is, there the desires or your heart will also be." Interesting. So it's talking about as we focus upon the treasure, what is our treasure? Whatever things or whoever we value, that's where our heart is going to be. And one of the two most basic questions that we as God's children need to ask ourselves is this. First question, where is my treasure? And the second question is, who is my treasure? So where is my treasure and who is my treasure? So how can we dissect that a little bit further by discovering or understanding where is my treasure or who is my treasure? So where defines my area of focus and work, but who defines the people on whom I need to concentrate. So where it's like, okay, Lord, what is my sphere of influence? Is it at my business, at my job, at my local church, in my neighborhood? Where? Okay, kind of geographically speaking. And then who? Who are these people that I need to see as this treasure? And as you begin to see these people as that treasure, that means your heart is going to becoming attracted to that because you see and you value them. As the scripture says, Jesus once said a parable that a man went out in the field and found a treasure, and then he sold everything he had in order to obtain it. In other words, when you and I, we discover that treasure of whatever it may be, and obviously in this case it's people, okay, then your heart is going to become attracted to that. Then your heart is going to become passionate about that. Then we're going to want to go out there and start serving those people, start being a blessing to them, and whatever gifts that God has given us, skills, experience, knowledge, it's through prayer, praying for them, ministering to them, blessing them financially, doing whatever the needs they may have in becoming that servant of God. But also when it comes to servant leadership, we need to also understand these few more principles. Only by understanding and discovering what is within our hearts, we'll be able to understand and discover what our treasure is. So as we look deeply into our hearts, what are the things that we're passionate about? What are the things we talk about? What are the things we dream about? What are the things that excites us? Now that's going to give us that clarity of what our treasure is and eventually direct us into the rightful direction. Another thought is this, that our hearts, your heart, will act as a compass that will lead you towards your treasure, or it will act as a GPS. Why do we usually put coordinates into GPS? Because we're usually going to an unfamiliar territory and want to make sure we get to our destination. So likewise here, when we look into our heart, and if our heart is in the rightful place, then it's going to start directing us towards our treasure, towards that field of work. As Jesus once said that the harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. A thought about that is this, that as the saying goes, you are what you eat. That is also true, that you only attract what your heart desires or wants. And this is very important, again, for us to analyze our heart. What is it that's captivating my heart? What is it that's attracting my heart? Of course, when we're driving on the highway and we see the big billboard with this big juicy cheeseburger, you may not be hungry at that moment, but you're already drooling. Oh man, I would love to have that cheeseburger. Same thing here is, what is it that's attracting us? What is it that's creating an appetite within us? All right, a couple more thoughts before I conclude this specific episode, and it's this. If your heart is pure, your treasure or your desire will also be pure. But, however, if your heart is evil and wicked, your reward will be unpleasant. So in other words, sometimes people thinking, oh, how come I'm not being rewarded by God? Or how come I'm not experiencing blessings? Or how come I'm not seeing results in my life or in the ministry work I'm doing? Well, a lot of times it has to do with our heart. If you're not maybe seeing those results or those fruits, then it's once again a good opportunity for us to go and to analyze our heart. And even as we heard plenty of parables of Jesus, on one of them where the master is like, hey, you know, I'm seeing this tree, it's not giving me any fruit, any produce, you know, just chop it down, throw it away. And the servant's like, no, give me a little more time, you know, let me fertilize it, do whatever I need to do. And if you come back again, it's not bearing fruit, then I'll cut it off. Or as Jesus said, I'm the vine dresser and you're the vine, that in order for the vine to grow and to be healthy and mature, you have to prune it. So same thing here. We need to continually prune our heart. We need to continually prune away things that are hindering from us growing, that it's hindering from our heart to be spiritually healthy and to be actually positioned and opened towards people, to serve them. Why? Because we need to have that heart of servanthood in the same way as Jesus had the heart of servanthood. And as I wrap up this thought about having this heart of servanthood, I want to say this to you that's going to bless you and encourage you at the same time. In leadership, your heart acts like a magnet, either drawing people to you or repelling them away from you. And the most basic analogy here is like a magnet. If you ever had a chance to play with magnets, you know, when you were younger, there's a side of magnet that will attract other pieces together, but when you flip it over, it actually repels it. You can't even connect it together. So that's a challenge for you and I as a child of God, as a minister, as a pastor, as a leader, as a small group leader, as a dad, as a mom, as a business owner, whichever area in life you are right now, or whatever gifting you may have, is my heart acting like a magnet that's attracting people to me, not for my own sake, but because of Christ and love that's in me? Or because my heart is in the wrongful place, it's actually repelling people away. It's actually pushing people not only away from me, but it's also pushing people away from God, even from my local church, because I've heard, you know, I've personally experienced this in my own life. I remember once, one of the first church I attended, I remember I walked in, I had a silver chain around my neck, and one of the deacons came up to me. He's like, "Hey, Stan, why don't you take the devil's chain off of your neck?" I'm like, "Oh, okay, wow." Of course, you know, it was very unpleasant, but at that moment, I was a bit more spiritually mature, not to get offended at the minister. But you know how many times, you know, men and women of God, pastors, ministers, people in key roles within their own local church have offended and wronged people just because of their wrongful heart. So my challenge to you, my friend, is be that individual that has the right heart of servanthood, the heart of Christ. And by doing so, it's like any healthy heart. Why do people have, you know, heart attacks, strokes, and etc.? It's because, you know, an unhealthy heart, and eventually that causes many other problems and even, you know, death as a result. So may you have a right spiritual heart and the heartbeat for God and for people. And if this video was a blessing to you guys, hit the like button, subscribe. If you haven't, you know, share it. I would love to hear some of your comments, and stick around for a lot more content to come. All right, until next time, my friend.